African Holocaust, really. Okay, because 6 million? So now we have to understand it is Jewish people who teach their children this history. Not only do they teach their children their history, they teach the world about the Holocaust of Jewish people. 6 million Jews, right? The African Holocaust, the largest forced migration of a people in the history of the world. 100 million Africans forced out of their country. 100 million. You see, and so we sit around, we don't know about history, we don't think it's important. It's extremely important. That's why we're in the conditions that we're in today, because we don't understand the significance, the relevance of history. I want to call on Dr. JamesTuner. I know Dr. JamesTuner, you didn't think you were going to speak, but we have to call you up here because, you know, he's at Cornell University. People pay a lot of money to go take courses, and he's here. He's a part of the Malcolm X Foundation, and we are so blessed to have him here. I hope.
It's not that I didn't want to speak. I hadn't come necessarily prepared to. But as I understand, and I hope all of you do, we have no choice but to honor our elder, our brother, our great mentor, and our ancestors. It is an obligation. Part of our problem is we don't accept the obligation to perpetuate our history, the knowledge of our history to each and every generation. So I remember when I was younger, like many of you sitting here in the audience, and a brother would come up to us and say, "Muhammad speaks, brother?" No. No. You ever see how we would do? We just would say, "No." And he'd say, "Brother, you want?" And we would turn all the way around and just ignore him. And I always thought that that was interesting. It wasn't just that he was selling Muhammad Speaks newspaper. It could have been 200 years of lynching. It could have been the world's greatest men of color. It could have been Black Fire, the voices of black women. Too many of our people turn their head and say no. Now that's something when a whole people refuse knowledge about themselves, that they are so much conditioned to reject learning about themselves that they will in contempt turn their head and say no, while they have under their arm at the same time the New York Daily News, which vilifies, insults us, degrades us, and ignores us all the time. What makes us that way? I used to also remember, I grew up in the housing project, and that's fine. You know, I hear these young black kids talking at college, "You must have grew up in the projects." I said, "Yeah." They don't hardly know what they're talking about. But in any event, we'd sit around in the evening on the bench out talking, and someone would say, "Do you know that Africans came before Columbus?" Now there are two ways you can respond to something you don't know. You could say, "Oh yes?" Especially if you're talking about Africans coming before the Europeans got here, that would be a wonderful thing. And you might say, "Oh, I'd like to know more." But most of us respond by saying, "Oh nigga, where'd you get that from? You always talking out your neck. Every time I look at you, you talking smack. What you talking about, how did them Africans get over here?" That's how we are. That's a conditioned response that's rooted in controlling people's consciousness. What did the great Carter G. Woodson say? If you control the way a man or a person thinks, you don't have to worry about what they'll do, because you already have them controlled. You see, when you have a people captured, it's not when it's obvious. When you have the chains on their feet and their ankles and their wrists. We would all say, those people are captured. I want to contend to you, they are not. As long as you have to keep them chained, you haven't got them. It's when you can remove the chains, take it off their ankles and their feet, when you can walk away and leave them standing there with no chain. You can go around the corner and they won't leave.
Yes, sir.
Then you've got them captured.
Yes, sir.
See?
Yes, sir.
And a lot of us walk around thinking, I'm all right, I'm free. But you know, you ride the subway and the bus when school is getting out and watch and listen to those young people. That's a barometer of how healthy or not we are. And listen to the way they talk to each other. Look at the things they say to make fun.
Go ahead, brother.
They haven't changed I can tell you how old I am, sister. Not that it matters, but James Small is my big brother. All right? But it ain't changed in a long time. They do what? They talk about each other's hair. They talk about each other's skin complexion. They talk about each other's size of their lips and their nose. And they can just get eloquent when they're doing that. And I say to myself, my goodness, it ain't changed much at all. That used to happen when I was young. You know? And the other thing was, it didn't take a minute for us to what? Throw down on each other. I was coming into town and saw Woodburn and Caxsackie and Dannemore and Elmira. When I was growing up, I didn't know what those places were, other than I'd look up and they say, you know, that Sonny Boy is gone, or Big Rob is gone, and they would be at those places. And I tell you, if somehow people came from Mars and they landed in the courtyard of Auburn or Caxsackie or Woodburn, they would swear they were in Africa. Because that's how those places are filled with us. But that's also a lesson. If half of those brothers and sisters were in the joint for fighting for freedom, we'd been free long time ago. We can get bad with each other, but not with the people who count, who do us all the time. Harlem has become so passive that people can move in here and then tell us we can't play our music. Now think about that. How many of y'all going to Bensonhurst? Huh? And move in and then walk up and say, y'all gotta stop playing this music or whatever. Or up at Bradhurst Park off 145th Street. They call the police in the evening and say, those elder gentlemen who are sitting in Bradhurst Park playing chess have to leave because it's the time for the closing of the park. Now that's people who are not only free in their mind, but they're arrogant.
Yes, sir.
I ain't arguing that we need to be arrogant. We ought to at least just be free.
At least.
And one act of being free is letting the world know that we pay honor to those people who stood for us. Malcolm could have gone any number of ways. He was a brilliant intellectual. He was a commanding student of politics, economics, and international affairs. You'd see him leaving the mosque in the evening. He had 3 newspapers under this arm, 10 more under the next arm, and he was on his way home. And this is why we marveled as young blood. How in the world could he know so much? And he was bad. Nobody would imagine that you could mess with him. It wasn't a matter of his manhood or his masculinity or how bad or how tough he was. Because he had reinterpreted that. And we related to that. And he'd stand there and tell us the truth about things about ourselves and about the others. Many of y'all laughed early when you heard the tape. He said, I want to welcome all you brothers and sisters here, friends and our enemies too. That's real. We couldn't be in this condition if we don't have enemies. We have to be clear who are our friends and who are our enemies. That's one thing that we learned from him about making careful analysis. So we are bound by the obligation of our ancestors and the history of our people to pay tribute to our ancestors like Brother Malcolm and Sister Dr. Betty Shabazz. We need in ourselves to demonstrate a new value, because the first revolution is the revolution of the mind. When we can step back from being willing to go against each other at a moment's notice, at a simple provocation. Y'all know we used to be in the projects, we didn't have much space. So when we wanted to have parties, we had to pack all the furniture out the living room, put it in the other rooms, and then put on a little red light, turn the music on, and be getting down. But since there was no space, you couldn't move, so you had to dance like this, you know. People would be moving, and invariably somebody would say, oh man, you stepped on my shoe. Oh, I'm sorry, man. Sorry? What's sorry got to do with it? Man, look what you done. And the mirror, take it outside, take it outside. Nobody else would try to resolve that in a way that would reduce the conflict amongst us. We always wanted to excel the conflict. Malcolm was a model for conflict resolution, as Brother Londell McMillan was talking about earlier today. We have to learn how to reconcile our differences so that we can imagine ourselves as one people to work together. We don't need uniformity, don't get me wrong. We don't all have to be alike. We don't all have to like the same things. But we have to have unity of purpose. And our objective is the freedom of our people. We're able to be moved out and shifted so that Harlem, they talking in 10 more years, won't be black. Because we don't stand to make a difference for our own future. But this is the lesson of Brother Malcolm's life. And I hope that we can begin today to understand the necessity to be serious about history in order to be serious about ourselves. Thank you so much.